Hey, this is Mr. Easton with homework help for modeling with division. This is something that is new to 5th grade for me. It's part of the Bridges curriculum. I actually really like it, but it takes some getting used to, especially when you've never done modeling with these base 10 pieces before. So what I've done is I've gotten out my 156 yellow base 10 pieces, and I've laid out my 13 over on the side with my linear pieces. This should look familiar to the modeling with multiplication video that I did earlier, except there's not a second thing up top, and that is actually what we're going to be trying to find out as we do this question. So we're going to look at the next step and we'll talk about it. Alright, so what I've done here is I have given each of my 13 groups 10 items. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way down. This is 10 groups, and I give each of them a 10 stick, which kind of looks like a 100 flat. Okay, what I've done down here is I've given each of these 3 people 10 items each. So I've given out 130 things. I've got 100, 10, 20, 30. And what I'm left with is my 26 down here to give out. So now what I've got here is I went ahead and I gave out another 1 item to each of the 13 groups. I gave 1 item to each of these 10 groups, which looks like a 10 stick. And I gave each of these 3 individuals 1 more item to indicate that 3 right there. And this is still what I have left to give out. And you can kind of see I've got a 10 stick and 3 ones, just like these pieces, so I'm probably going to be giving that out in the next step. So in the last step, you can see I have given out another 1 item to each of the 13 groups. Here's 1 item to each of the 10 groups, and 1 item to each of the 1 groups. What you'll notice now is I got this blue piece up here. Because I am finished giving out my yellow pieces, I can now indicate what the other dimension of that array was, which was 10, 11, 12. So what that means is I gave 12 items to each of the 13 groups. So my answer to 156 divided by 13 is 12. Okay, and as in the previous video, we're going to start moving that towards an algorithm soon, and then we will kind of move from there. We're going to look at an example of what it might look like on a sheet of paper instead of with base 10 blocks next. Okay, so now we're going to try to transition this into an semi-concrete or just a model where we're using visuals. And I'm also going to connect that to an algorithm that we can use too. So for this question, we're going to try 315 divided by 15. So if you notice over here on the side, I've got my 10 and my 5 ones indicated here. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to try to start giving out items. Typically we try to give out, at least like in groups of 10. So we're going to look at the next slide and we're going to see what that looks like. So what happened here is I gave out 10 items to each of the 15 people. So this 100 square here represents 10 items to each of the 10 people. And these green pieces down here indicate I gave 10 items to each of these 5 people. So that's total 150. And so what I did up here on this algorithm is I indicated that I am subtracting 150 items out of my 315 total, which leaves me with 165 left. And over here on the side, it indicated that this 10 means that I gave 10 items to each of the 15 people. So the next step is you think, what else can I give? And I always say, can you give the same thing again? Can I give 150 more items out if I have 165 items? And the answer is, yeah, sure, I can. And so in the next slide, we're going to look and see what that looks like. Well, it turns out this slide actually has the next 2 steps, so I'm going to try to break that down. We had our 165 up here, and so I gave 150 more items out by doing another 100 flat, and then 5 more of the 10 sticks. And that left us with 15 items remaining. And if you have 15 items, you can give 1 item to each person. So I'm going to subtract 15 off. I'm going to indicate that 1, and I'm going to draw my 10 stick over here and my 5 individual pieces. So my answer can come from looking at the linear pieces on top, 10, 20, 21. And it also kind of translates over here by you look at what you gave out. You gave 10 to each person, another 10 to each person, and one more to each person. So that's 21 as well. So that is how this array model works. Obviously, as they progress in division, they're not going to have to use this array model all the time. I will say that the array model is very helpful. It's going to help us when we are multiplying with fractions. It's going to help us when we're multiplying mixed numbers. It's going to help us do division of fractions and mixed numbers as well. So, that being said, this has been Mr. Eason with Homework Help. Thank you and good luck.